It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And now it's time for my favorite part of the show, wherein I guess what's in Tim's background today. Tim, I'm going to guess it's a culinary treat. It's a plate of Rocky Mountain oysters, Hezbollah style. Maybe? No? What do you got there?
No, not even close.
Okay.
I'm here 2 miles down at the Ocean Gate wreckage.
Well, first of all, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Is it me or
is that
now
better?
it's better. A little better.
Okay.
So what's this?
This is the submarine that went down to see the Titanic and imploded. They found it.
Oh,
And,
wow.
And while I'm down here, I'm looking for David Muir's ratings.
Sure. Now, interestingly, and of course, I wanted to ask you about that because I always want to zero in on your areas of expertise, stand-up comedy, conspiracy theories, and the world news tonight, because you were the guy, and you've gone on record for a long time that you actually watched David Muir before he imploded in that debate. And the latest I saw was, the ratings were down 12%, but then I guess on Monday, they said that their ratings were way up. Now, I'm wondering if that's bouncing back from how far down they were, kind of like the Biden jobs rebound. What's your take on this?
Well, I know that in the Slagle house, we're no longer allowed to watch David Muir. We have not watched him since the debate.
Now, you actually were, before that, though, you were hate watching him. So what's wrong with, okay.
The Mrs. Slagle can't even do that anymore.
Okay. I totally understand that.
She can't even look at the guy. So,
well, I wouldn't switch over to Channel 5 and watch Lester Holt either, because he basically, and by the way, having worked very briefly with his son, Stephen Holt, at Channel 5, and a lot of people say, oh, nepotism. And yeah, I'm sure it was. I mean, Lester helped get him the job. But I think, just from, my small sample size, that Stefan a lot smarter than Lester. So I don't want to smear the whole family. Here's the thing about Lester.
Yeah, and also Stefan's in a position to give you a job. So
yeah, right. Actually, probably is, or was before I just said this about his dad. But no, Lester Holt. First of all, let's give him his credit where it's due. He was in The Fugitive. I believe he was in the movie The Fugitive, playing Lester Holt, and which is, if you notice, newsmen always play newsmen. Although Buzz Kilman, who I used to work with at the Loop, was in the Hannibal Lecter movie Silence of the Lambs, because he knew Jonathan Demme, and Buzz played a guy, just a regular normal guy in the elevator. Anyway, as far as
we're actually watching Nora O'Donnell.
Oh, wow. Well, she's got her problems too. We'll get to that. But remind me. But anyway, Lester said, with regard to the second assassination attempt on Trump, that that this comes amid all the heated rhetoric over cats in Ohio, basically blaming it, the assassination attempt, on Trump himself. Which it's pretty neat that they're doing that. I recommend.
It's all his fault, isn't it? I mean, all he has to do is resign from the campaign, and the trials all go away.
Oh, sure.
The attempts, the assassination attempts, go away. It's his fault for running.
Now here's what I'm wondering. And I think I'm the guy who came up with the transitive property of football scores. Like, if Northwestern beat Wake Forest and Wake Forest beat the Bears, then Northwestern could beat the Bears many, many years ago. But let's assume, arguendo for the sake of argument, that what happened on January 6, 2021 was an insurrection, not a mere riot. What I'm asking you is, does one insurrection equal 2 assassination attempts? I mean, is it a wash after that? After that, I'm just trying to figure this out. At what point do you stop blaming Trump? I mean, it's 2 assassination. Now, so other people have said, "Oh well, Gerald Ford had 2 assassination attempts within 17 days." So big deal. But it's. I mean, can you imagine the hue and cry? Not just the hue, but the hue and the cry over if there had been 2 assassination attempts on a Democratic candidate. So there was an assassination, a de facto assassination of a presidential candidate, Joe Biden. I mean, he was rubbed out by his own party. So I'm just wondering, what it would be like if this, it had been on the other side. It would be absolute mayhem.
Well, especially if it was a candidate of color. I mean, that would put an entirely new dimension, if it was if it was a former president of color,
Right.
if there was an assassination attempt on Obama, oh my gosh,
now, if it were a North Carolina GOP candidate of color who apparently has gotten caught, I just read about this before we came on the Ashley Madison website. And Ashley Madison, I believe, is no relation to the 5th president of the United States.
Or the cookie manufacturer.
Right. So you've heard about this guy now. Was on the porn sites. He's black, and he said he was a black Nazi, supposedly. And he also said that he was in favor. He'd own a few slaves if he could. I mean, so I want to withhold judgment on this because the latest tweet I saw from the guy said this is just all a smear campaign. So all right, well, we'll see. I don't know, but it's very possible. I'm just wondering if there is going to be a Republican candidate for.
Is there still an Ashley Madison? I thought that sting kind of blew up.
Well, maybe
years ago.
They're going back to Ashley Madison.
Well, that's what I mean. Is it? So they found out that he signed up for Ashley Madison 10 years ago. Is that?
Oh, right. And they're just releasing it now. Sure. Let's not hold anybody to what they said. If we were holding people to what they said, Kamala Harris would be she would be in favor of electric vehicles and a bill that she co-sponsored, but then as president would veto it. So the John Kerry.
Wow, Chris pulled that up pretty quick.
Yeah, very. Yes, I would say Chris nimble fingers getting to the Ashley Madison website.
Either that or it's bookmarked.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So we have the story about the cats in Springfield, Ohio, which apparently is a myth, but also the bomb threats that to Springfield, Ohio, according to Governor Mike DeWine. No Trump shill. Those were all hoaxes too. So don't they cancel?
Apparently they were coming. Apparently they were all coming out of Haiti. And they should. Okay. They should cancel. I mean, in a fair world, they should cancel each other out, but absolutely not. Bomb threats against illegal immigrants. News. Rumors of cats being consumed.
Yeah.
Not news.
Speaking of Norah O'Donnell, apparently CBS, the CBS Evening News, ignored the whole hoax claim by Mike DeWine. Wait, that's a pretty big, or at least in the initial reporting. And John Podhoretz had no Trump sycophant. He had a column in Commentary a few years ago, in which he castigated. And notice I'm using these John Podhoretzian type words to describe what he did. He pilloried the liberal media establishment because they're just kind of like not so secretly wishing that Trump had been done in. Not that they were behind this, but they tend to be rather selective on what they report. So
I would bet money they've already got graphics ready for the for the 24-hour coverage of when it actually happens.
I mean, I don't want to think about I just, for some reason, I just don't want to think that it could possibly happen. But
well, it's pretty darn close twice now.
Yeah, no, right. And this time, why aren't they covering where you can stick a gun through the fence near one of the holes? Why doesn't he have that protection? I don't think of Trump as a brave guy, but I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't run for president if I thought that right around the corner, there was.
You would no longer golf. You would give up golf on your own course if.
Yeah, on my own course. I just it's simply amazing to me.
The hearsay is that he was really disappointed that he was gonna get a 2.
Oh, sure. Right.
And he wanted to finish it.
It's almost it's not quite Ronald Reagan, honey, I forgot to duck moment and I always thought that these things are written after the fact by good speech writers, that nobody actually has the presence of mind to say that in the moment. Basically, if you're about to be assassinated, the most you can come up with is the jerk store just called and they ran out of you. It's interesting, but we still have over a month to go. But latest the betting line, I know it's more in favor of Harris, right?
Yeah, it's not good. It's 6 points up for Harris.
Yeah. And she just moved ahead nationally in the Fox poll. I saw like an Emerson poll that shows that Trump is leading in the swing states, except maybe North Carolina, but he is leading in Georgia. Who knows? Are you still hopeful that this is going to be one of those situations where Trump outstrips the polling like he has done in the past?
I'm a little nervous because outstripping the polling is one thing. Outstripping the cheating is the necessity.
I'm not. See, that's why we make a great team, because I'm not worried about the cheating. Okay, Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And I always say as a moderator, what the candidates decide to do with that time, you can ask the questions, but they'll answer with whatever they choose to answer with. That's right. And you have to be ready for whatever might come your way, even the most unexpected of moments. As you all know, you know what I'm talking about. Right. And I will say this. All of the noise that you hear afterward about, which candidate won the debate, the moderators win or lose, that's just noise. Yeah. You all know that. The most important thing to remember is that you all have the power. Everybody at home has the power.
This is Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap, because we can't get enough of David Muir. And he's a handsome, well-spoken, empty suit.
But his hair was better 5 years ago.
Oh, really? And may I say that I noticed your hair and how fetching it is today. You got some nice little waves in there. Now, I know you've been underwater for quite some time trying to find the remains. So did that thing get anywhere near the Titanic?
Yeah, it was 1,200 feet away.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay. Which is about how far the assassin was from Donald Trump, if you're keeping score at home. So here's some more bad news. There's this, I don't know why I believe this guy. So this Mark Zander, basically, we look at the polling and everything, but he says if gasoline is under $3.50 a gallon, Harris gets 286 votes, electoral votes. That sound about right to you?
Well, it could be. I have noticed that the gas is quite low. I was actually able to find it for $2.93.
Oh, this is unbelievable.
The other day.
And then the Fed, I'm a big expert on the Fed, basis points and everything. I know of the Fed, as Homer Simpson might say, or as Kramer might say when Jerry said, you don't know what writing off means. I don't, but they do, Jerry. And so if the Fed lowers the rate, that's going to help her too, right?
Yeah, that's I think that's the intention. Why else would they do it? Inflation, it's still 3%.
Yeah.
It's you raise it lower the interest rate half a point, it's even more. Nora O'Donnell was actually talking about the Fed lowering the interest, and they actually came up with some figures. They said it will lower the cost of the average mortgage by up to $21 a month.
Well, that'll push her right over the.
And then, with no irony, they go right into a story about it'll help homeowners like this afford their first home.
Just okay.
It's $21 a month. I'm sorry, that's one trip to McDonald's now.
Now, yeah, and here's the thing. Although I think at Aldi's you can now make 23 an hour, which was good. $21. We played Monopoly in my later years. We got rid of the dollar bills. They were a nuisance, and we may as well have gotten rid of the 20s as well.
Get rid of those light blue properties too.
But here's the thing that's going to put her over the top. Scientific American, which does not, it's science, right? It endorsed Kamala Harris. And the aforesaid John Podhoretz, I got to quote his tweet. He said, this is a woman who would not take the Trump COVID vaccine because it was Trump. She's scientific. That was her basis for not taking the vaccine. But Scientific
to
American,
put on my tinfoil hat again.
Yeah.
Her mom was a bio engineer. Scientist, so
at a Wuhan lab.
So maybe she knew something about that vaccine that the rest of us didn't.
I see.
Her mom said, "No, you do not want to take it."
Whoa! I don't know if you're allowed to do that. We may have to edit that out.
But there's no question why the Scientific American. Of course they would. All their subscribers rely on grant money, and 90% of that grant money is climate change money. They're going to endorse the guy that's going to overwrite the Inflation Reduction Act? Of course not.
I learned the scientific method when I was in junior high, and I never forget, my science teacher, Mr. Garcia, saying the first rule of science is follow the money. That's the scientific method. Experiment, test, draw a conclusion, make a hypothesis, follow the money. Yeah.
Everyone talks about that line in Eisenhower's farewell speech where he says that we have to watch out for the military-industrial complex. He also said that there's as big of a danger from being I'm paraphrasing here, from giving in to a scientific elite that controls science for the money. Right. It's and that quote is not brought up very often.
Interesting. A little revisionist history on Eisenhower is turning into an intellectual, whereas Russell Kirk, of course, famously said when they accused Eisenhower in the McCarthy era, of course, of being a communist, he said, he's not a communist, he's a golfer. So that was there's the famous line about Ike. Here's some more endorsements. Mel Brooks and George Will. Now, I once actually interviewed Mel Brooks, who was one of my childhood heroes, the 2,000-year-old man. But when I interviewed him, I actually hurt his feelings because I knew the whole 2,000-year-old man album by heart. But then he asked me, and this was face to face with him in a studio, little guy, and he says, "Did you see To Be or Not to Be?" And I had to admit that I didn't. And I hurt his feelings because, Tim, it's axiomatic. The bigger they are, the more sensitive their egos. I mean, you wouldn't think that you could hurt Mel Brooks. I crushed him. I absolutely crushed him. George Will got a lot of...
That was the closest. That film was probably the closest he did to like an actual Mel Brooks star. You know what I mean? It's the closest he did to... Everything else was just a cameo. That was...
for him starring in it? He was in it. Wasn't he in High Anxiety a lot? Don't you remember that one? He did a Sinatra imitation in that. That's right. That's right. But that was just complete comedy. To Be or Not to Be had a little was a bit of a drama. So now you're
it was his Oscar. It was his Oscar shot.
Sure,
is what I'm trying to say.
No, right. It was Jim Carrey in The Truman Show. I get it. It was Bill Murray in that one with Scarlett Johansson. It's the one where you always get the nice laugh at the comedian who doesn't get the Academy Award for this serious role. Never fails to amuse me. George Will also endorsed Kamala Harris, and I didn't read about his endorsement. I'm just reminded another guy, but also met and used to be intimidated by. I remember George Will writing a column, a warning. So this is after the Berlin Wall fell, warning about Germany reunification. And, you figure, since, after World War I, they rebounded. It wasn't an unwarranted concern when Germany was going to be reunified. But, history has a way of repeating itself, except when it doesn't. And I mean, what's Germany like now? I just think of them as they're not the industrial powerhouse. Europe itself is. Where was I reading? Europe is used to be 95% as productive as the United States was, and now it's down to 80%. I mean, it's just
Germany is kind of pulling the weight for the rest of the EU, right, if I'm not mistaken. Right. Yeah. I mean, they're the only people in the whole entire EU that work. I mean, that's why England left. They said, no, we don't want to be tied down to these. So you've got that. Then you've also got the fact that they don't really care for the immigration that's going on now.
Right.
So George Will, he might not have been wrong there, Bruce.
Ultimately, and we're going to get the Fourth Reich. Okay. And we'll be led by the Republican candidate for governor in North Carolina, apparently.
But fortunately, this time they're going to, because they're all in on green. It's electric tanks, solar electric tanks. Right, so right. They won't be able to invade Poland at night.
Oh boy! Oh man! A good comedian never leaves a stone unturned. I mean, he will go there. Shakespeare had some of the worst puns in the world. Of course, he also had a lot of other great lines too. I'm not saying you don't have them, but going for changing the light bulb jokes. The first joke I ever heard in my life, variation on that theme. I Cujo's, as Michael Jordan would say to you. So here's another endorsement. Howard Stern. We got Mel Brooks, George Will, and Howard Stern doesn't want Trump voters to listen to him anymore. Howard beat you to it. I haven't listened in a long time. And I mean, I just love, here's Howard Stern. Here's a tweet from me. Imagine being such a sap that you blow Joe Biden like a day before he's dumped. He did that interview with Biden, laid down for him, dressed up that day, wore the suit. I think had the pet salon come in and comb his hair. But yeah, I mean,
when he signed with Sirius XM, wasn't it like a 10-year contract or something like that?
I don't know how long this has been going on. I think longer than that, hasn't it? And
he's
what?
No, did his decline, or I'm just wondering.
The guy. I think the guy makes like $100 million a year, or something like that. It's just amazing.
Well, that's what I mean. That was his initial contract, and he kind of earned it because it caused because Sirius XM made a lot of money when they signed him. They made what they're paying them back, but I don't know if I'm wondering if that contract's over. I'm wondering if it's up for renewal. I'm wondering because I say he's not the powerhouse he was. He's not.
Well, he never really was once he went to satellite radio. You kind of give up stuff. It's like going to the Live tour, like John Rahm getting $400 million for that, and nobody ever thinks about you ever again. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
That's what he was saying. And I think it was in that interview where Dana Bash says, the police have gone through 11 months of recordings of calls, and they've only found 2 Springfield residents calling to complain about Haitian migrants taking geese from ponds. Only 2 calls. And I think one lesson of this whole story, people don't care about geese. People really hate geese. They
Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap.
Oh, dear.
So I actually saw this tweet by this woman, fungible turkey, named Madeline Peltz. I saw the tweet and showing the clip. And when I was watching the clip, and I didn't even know what she was talking about. I actually thought she was like on our side somehow. I just, from what her tweet was. And then I watched the clip, and her tweet was having a hard time coming to any conclusion besides the obvious one about what Rich Lowry catches himself blurting out here. And I thought it was like support for JD Vance. I just couldn't, I didn't, but when I was watching it, I actually, for a nanosecond, thought, that almost sounded like the N-word. But then, of course, immediately realized that he was trying to say migrant. And then,
yeah, but that's a long eye, not a short eye. And
so you actually think he was trying to say the N-word?
It sure sounds like he was like a Freudian slip to me.
This is Rich Lowry. I mean, do you know who Rich Lowry is? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
He's the editor of National Review. I mean, look, National Review is my Bible. I admit it. And I've interviewed Rich Lowry before. He's probably one of the most even-tempered guys around. I mean, he can get along with all the different personalities. And because there's some, sharp-edged people around. I don't know if you know about these political writers, but they can be rather testy. And he's a good guy. There's no way he's saying that word. There's no way. I mean, and, so he hit the short eye, changed it to the long eye. Now, I do have to say that, there was an issue that National Review came out with in 2016, which was the cover page said against Trump. It was the conservatives saying, we don't want him. And I'm just thinking, in light of being a victim himself now of the very thing that drives people into the arms of Donald Trump, that maybe they could come out with an issue, the cover of which says, well, sometimes Trump. I mean, something, because and here's the thing, as Lowry says, and I guess he wrote a column about this. He makes his living doing this. He makes his living fighting these kinds of things. What about the people who have to cower because you got to be really careful about what you have to say? And even when you haven't even said the wrong thing, you're going to be pilloried for it. I just thought it was something.
I'm not sure that he was going to say the full word, but
I don't even think
there are other less offensive words that kind of start the same, that in his head he might have been thinking. That's all I can think.
I don't
because
think
it's not.
There is one word in the English language that I know of that starts the same.
Spanish for black.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's he could have been thinking that.
I don't think.
No, but I mean there's an English version of that word too. I'm dancing around it so we don't.
Yeah, I mean,
so I don't pull a Rich Lowry
in this
here.
no holds barred Howard Stern type podcast. All right. And actually, so I wound up just like was more interested in looking at the bookshelf behind him to see if I recognized any of the books. And the thing that really bothered me, the real crime for Rich Lowry wasn't this slip of the tongue. His crime was talking to Megyn Kelly, who hoarded up by embracing Tucker Carlson, an anti-Semite of the Churchill was the villain school. Rich, if you can hold your nose and talk to her, can't you hold your nose and vote for Trump, who's, fighting the good fight for people like you who didn't mean anything and didn't do anything wrong. So yeah, the latest I saw was, and by the way, there's a picture of Megyn Kelly with Tucker Carlson and Harrison Butker, the Kansas City Chiefs kicker. They're all together, and there's video of her embracing Tucker Carlson. And of course, I hate Tucker Carlson, and so it's guilt by association with him for Megyn. In our rundown today, Chris, our crack producer, writes, Megyn Kelly, level-headed professional broadcaster, embraces Tucker Carlson. So this reminds me of, I used to have, for a short time, I had a show on Channel 5 at 4:30 in the morning called Barely Today. My producer was a liberal. I mean, almost probably a radical. It wasn't a political show, but I had to do like news items about President Bush at the time. And I'd be reading the teleprompter, copy that I had written. And, I'd have like the center of my forehead would be splitting open because it was 4:30 in the morning and I had gotten like 4 hours of sleep. And in my teleprompter, the producer had written in jokes against George Bush that I had to hurdle over and not read. So I'm used to that, Chris. I can handle you.
Why would you not read them?
Oh, they were anti-Bush jokes.
So
I mean, I don't want to read, all of a sudden that's coming out of me. I mean,
were they funny?
Kamala Harris would probably read them. Or Joe Biden certainly would read the stage directions. I get it.
Were they funny though? I mean, that's where I come from.
Boy, I get really it'd be one thing if people were even-handed and made jokes against both sides, but that doesn't happen now. Everybody's lined up in their.
No, I'm kind of that way. I think anybody that makes Trump jokes is a hack.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with political bias. It's just
it's
it's so easy.
Tina Fey called it. She called it
clapter.
Clapter, right? The portmanteau, clapping and laughter together. And so you never knew, which is why when I did that radio show with Dan Proft, and used to get people calling in, "Oh, Bruce, you're so funny," and everything. I'm saying, I don't know. You're just on our side. I mean, really, don't you? It's like, I'll watch Saturday Night Live and I'll watch Colin Jost with that. What I can't use the soft eye here, the shite eye eating grin, and the other guy, Michael Che. And, I'll admit, all right. Yeah, that's funny. It's funny. And I hate him. So if I hate you, and I say, no, okay, it's funny. Then that's pretty good. But
that's how other comics laugh at each other.
They don't laugh, actually.
No, they don't. They just
great.
They just go, oh, that's a good line.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Good one. And then you're thinking to yourself, why didn't I think of that? Couldn't I have? I mean, do you think that way or no? Do you care? Are you competitive?
Sometimes if it's extremely clever, I go, oh. If it's clever and it's so clever that it seems obvious, that kind of.
Now, speaking of clever lines, so when the whole thing happened with Hezbollah the last few days, which is just great, loved it. So I tweeted to Noah Rothman, who's the big honcho conservative writer, great balls of fire, and I'll just wait for the laughter there. So anyway, he reposted that, which was great. But then I saw that line that I had come up with, like 18 other times by other people. So I may have been like in the top 50 of those who came up with great balls of fire. Funny,
you know what? When that happens to me, when I look at a joke I put on Facebook, and then I see a bunch of other people putting a very similar joke, I'll look at the timestamp.
Oh, absolutely, totally.
Who did
it
first?
3 seconds before you did. I win. And no, so great. There were some other great lines. The best thing was people showing the Motorola pagers, and one said 72 virgins coming up, so that's the last thing they read. There was one
I can't get over just the physical comedy of it, though. Just imagining just
it's great.
I am getting a page. And then they take their beeper off their belt and look right at it.
Yeah, Chris just put something up there which was pretty funny, and now I forget what it was. But you got it again. So this is Oliver Alexander. First, never ask a woman her age, a man his salary. The Iranian ambassador, why he had a Hezbollah pager. I mean, there was another one that had the Motorola pager saying shalom. I mean, you can imagine a guy seeing that. That would be great. Meantime, guy.
I saw somebody redid the logo and it said Martyr Rolla.
Oh, good one. Well, then there's from the liver to the knee. I mean, we're just now repeating. That's great. Hey, let's read other people's tweets. That's a winner. So there was a Charlie Meyerson, this guy I like. I used to work with at WXRT. Shalom. He has this leftist newsletter every day called The Public something or other. So his first item today is horrific, quote unquote. Mayor Johnson is among those appalled by a tweet since removed from Chicago City Council Alderman Brendan Riley showing a photo of a pager with the words Mazel Tov, seemingly congratulating Israel on the explosion of devices that killed dozens and wounded thousands. Oh yeah, that's the greatest crime in the world.
Well, Johnson doesn't think it's funny because do you know how many false alarms they got on the shot spotter?
Oh, great one. Okay. All I did was I wrote back to Charlie. Yeah, I'm very upset too because they misspelled Mazel Tov. They spelled it Mazol, and then he wrote back to me true. So some great jokes. I think you just had one of the best ones. When we come back, we'll talk about sports a little bit. Remind me to bring up David Muir again because we got to have him at all the segments of the show. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle in the Weekly Wrap.
Butker's kick for the win. He buries it.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. I actually saw this game, and I can't wrap my head around the incongruity. I mean, Harrison Butker, we know, is the guy who made that commencement address, throwing us back to the 1950s when a woman would stay in her house and raise the children and not work. And the antithesis of that is Taylor Swift, the paradigm of the cat lady. And how does she cheer for Harrison Butker? I guess some things supersede.
Well, it was the game-winning kick.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
First of all, and secondly, did she really endorse Kamala, or did she send out a press release?
Well, I mean,
I mean, sure, it was obviously her people, and she approved it. But I have a feeling that she's not really as on board as people want to.
Well, like Caitlin Clark signed something that Taylor had done as well, but Caitlin Clark was just saying, no, I'm just in favor of people registering to vote. So she kind of softened the whole thing. I can't believe we're talking about this. I want to talk about the political opinions of women basketball players. Come on. It's got to be a man basketball like Charles Barkley, who was misquoted in his own autobiography. So, speaking of field goal kickers, it's gotten way out of hand and, into the foot right now. The games are so bad now because they're being decided by 54 yard, 60 plus yard field goals. The Bears game on Sunday night was so bad. They were showing replays of a sideline guy tripping and hitting his head. I mean, why didn't they show a fan hurling his nachos? Now I had a solution to this many, many years ago, that there should be a place on the roster for a female, and it should be a female kicker. That would make the kick shorter. Now, of course, nowadays we get into arguments about who is a female, and that would be a lot of fun too. But that would be the requirement. And I know Kathy Ireland in one movie played a female kicker on a male team, but Well, and there's other suggestions about narrowing. I thought the uprights should be narrowed and expanded and narrowed, like an accordion as the kick is going up, more of a miniature golf feel to it.
Actually have a move like a windmill.
Oh, that would be great. I mean, great kind of stuff. Now, it does, just to circle back here to Hezbollah. I thought it was neat that that the ball was kicked kind of through their uprights, so to speak, and by Israel. And I mean, because these NFL kickers are really doing well now, but Mossad is even better because they go through the uprights and get the doink as well. All right, I kind of botched my own joke there, but but it will be repeated by somebody else later, I hope. So, and then do we have any of these tweets from Rick Riley? You know who Rick Riley is?
Not a clue.
Okay, Rick Riley was like a big writer for Sports Illustrated for decades, and it was very popular. And this is after the assassination attempt, the second one. Dear President Trump, I don't think it's safe for you to play golf anymore. Don't worry, though. We can still pretend you won the club championship, just like always. So this is the smarmy. The guy has been shot at. Well, he wasn't shot at, no, but it was the second assassination attempt. And that's the kind of stuff that you get from Rick Riley, who I just let the record show, however awful Trump is, his enemies are always awfuler. And whatever happened to Rick Riley? Oh yeah, he's on Twitter with me now. that's the leveling thing.
And Don Lemon.
Oh, God. Don Lemon too. So all right, well, we can't talk football anymore because I mean you don't care about that, right? I was gonna say
you can go ahead.
Well, but I mean the Caleb Williams.
The season started, right?
Yeah, right. Well, apparently it hasn't started for Caleb Williams, and because I mean he's done basically nothing through 2 games. Now they're blaming the offensive line, and they are right in doing that. But meantime, the guy he replaced, Justin Fields, threw a great pass for Pittsburgh. Yeah, it's just for the first 2 games, and I've got nothing to add that I haven't seen from. I mean, you think people tweet about Hezbollah pagers? I mean, there are so many people who have a lot of knowledge too, who've come out of the woodwork and just and tweet about the Bears. I mean, they analyze this stuff, watch game films, and they know what they're talking about. And it's just, I mean, I feel sorry for the guys on sports radio because they're just swimming in it. They're swimming in a sea like you are in right now, sunken. There's just so much there. But I actually thought, because Marvin Harrison had a great day last Sunday, that maybe the Bears should have traded and gotten him. But I'm the typical second guessing fan, which is, I mean, it's almost redundant. I mean, that's what fans are there for. It's just a second guess. And what have you done for me lately? I was thinking that we did need a distraction from the Bears, and because this is going to take a while. So Jerry Reinsdorf, you really do owe us one now. How about making John Paxson the general manager of the White Sox today? That would, and by the way, that merited a great laugh from you. But if you knew sports,
if I knew sports, I would love that. Okay. I'd be on the floor right now. I'm sure.
Back. Let's circle back because we got to talk about David Muir the entire show.
It just occurred to me that his email address is Demure.
Oh my goodness.
At ABC.com.
So David Muir, you're not only our expert on David Muir, but put on your tinfoil hat on right now. What about this whole whistleblower thing about the debate being fixed? Do you believe that as well? I noticed that apparently there were typos in the memo from the whistleblower, and it just looks fake. But do you believe that the debate was rigged?
Kinda. I mean, it's a couple levels just with the election. Okay,
Yeah.
people said the election was rigged. Well, does that mean that the machines, the voting machines, were being operated by somebody in Venezuela? No,
it was China.
It could mean that that a October surprise occurred, and the media refused to cover it, and the government said it was a conspiracy.
Well, I mean, yeah, right. Hunter Biden, I agree with you on that.
So I mean, right. Okay, so
yeah, but Tim, let's have a fight right now, and let's just break up this partnership with a couple of minutes to go on the show. Look, do you think that there were a sufficient number of actual ballots that somebody went into a nursing home, and some old ladies didn't know what they were doing, and people signed their names to it, and that was enough to win Wisconsin or something like that? Do you think that happened?
What was Wisconsin, about 10,000?
Well, I mean, I'm just throwing a state out there: Arizona, Wisconsin,
and they were there was like 100% voter turnout at Wisconsin nursing
well, I mean, again,
homes.
I mean.
Okay,
look,
how many people are in Wisconsin nursing homes? Yeah, I think it's very close.
Chris says that Wisconsin was the voting in the park. Look, I know that there was a conservative group that did its own investigation of this, but apparently it's not sufficient for Chris or you. And I'd like nothing more than to find a conspiracy. Anyway, let's go back.
One in five mail-in voters admitted to fraud.
Yeah, I don't know what that constituted. What was the fraud? What was the fraud that the 1 in 5 voters did? And
some level of fraud. 1 in 5.
Yeah.
One in 5 mail-in voters. So I mean, that's 20%.
No, that's sufficient. But it's just.
But anyway, yes.
Okay, so let's go back to the whistleblower.
So did ABC rig the election? Yeah.
The debate.
They fact checked Trump repeatedly.
Yeah.
Interrupted him. Wouldn't let him finish. Wouldn't let him state his case.
Right, and I'm not going to let you finish. Look, Ace of Spades has Ace of Spades has a good thing on this today. Yeah, no, they didn't. The only thing that ABC admitted or denied was that they gave the specific questions to Kamala. Right. They didn't give her the specific questions. They gave her general questions, but also they apparently, according to the whistleblower, agreed not to fact check her because she's the prosecutor and she was going to have her mic off, and that would be unfair to her. Give me a break. So, it's possible that that's what happened. I am partial. I have to admit my bias to Ace of Spades because Ace of Spades retweeted me this week. Yeah, Ace of Spades. So what did Ace of Spades had a tweet about single women feeling the empowerment of dining alone. All right. And just going to look. Yeah. Do we have that, Chris? We don't have that tweet. Anyway, it was about women are left-wingers and they have felt the empowerment of dining alone. And I tweeted back, someday they may be able to dine with a hologram of Doug Emhoff. And he liked that, and or whatever gender Ace of Spades is, and reposted that. So anyway,
Doug Emhoff, the guy that supports free and complete access to abortion for nannies.
Always with the good one, and you know that people are going to be reposting that later. But you were the first one. They were reposting it. That'll be original in their minds, but you were the first one. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.